Hi, my name is Megan Flanagan, and I am a coach at FromWithin Coaching. And today, on our Coach's Corner segment, we are talking about imposter syndrome. That is the theme for the month, but it's a theme that's been around for years, as I've mentioned in other interviews with other FromWithin coaches. Today, I am so grateful to be joined by Mary McClements, also another FromWithin coach. She's a career, trauma, and transition coach. Not sure what else is added in there, but you cover a lot in your coaching. So um, spend just a few minutes telling us like who you are and who you love to coach and a little bit about yourself before we get into
Yeah,
imposter syndrome.
yeah, the deep stuff.
Right.
Yeah, you nailed it. I'm a career trauma transition coach with under those with subcategories are resilience, confidence, balance in life. I cover a lot, and I really enjoy it all. Um, Yeah, so I am a coach. I'm also a visual artist. I'm a clay artist, and I am a newly hired Hoffman Institute teacher, which my imposter syndrome is going to connect very perfectly. It's going to dovetail very nicely. I start training tomorrow. It's a year-long process of training, and I can talk a little bit about the Hoffman process in a minute, but yeah, I like to do a lot of things. I when I finally realized that all of my interests and strengths were my superpowers, my life changed.
Mhm.
Because, I think a lot of people who like to do this and they like to do that, and oh, that's interesting, often are shamed for it. And, like just get a job and stay with the one thing, right? Is so often what we're told. And so I was embarrassed for a long time about all of my interests, and people would even say, oh, what are you doing now? And I would kind of shrink and tell them, and now I'm like, this is what I'm doing now. I
Right.
love these things and I'm doing these things and I'm good at these things. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they used to be
Yeah.
celebrated back. I'm gonna botch up the years, like during the Renaissance time, right? They would say
Yeah.
Renaissance men were, like men who were full of many, many talents.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
hadn't
they were
thought about
allowed to
that.
do that. And it's true, very mainstream is, the cookie cutter life, I call it. You go to college,
Yeah.
you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and bump up, you retire with your 401k, and then you
Uh-huh.
travel at 75 when you can't walk.
Right, right.
I'm
And
being a
right.
bit
And now
dramatic,
there's like,
but it's fun
yeah,
to do all those things and do something
yeah.
different. And um,
Yes. I feel like
but
I've lived a very full life.
with that,
Mm.
it's funny because I've done the outside of the box, outside of the cookie cutter thing as well. But I think with that comes a lot of imposter syndrome because, and I'll speak for myself and then I'll lead into what you want to discuss about it. But if people aren't supportive, you're like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? You're questioning yourself.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
is almost leading to that. I feel like an imposter. Is anybody going to find out I shouldn't be here?
Uh-huh.
I shouldn't
Uh-huh.
be doing this job. I shouldn't be living this life. I shouldn't be living, what, like, who am I
Who
to
am
move to
I?
Hawaii and live here? Like,
Yeah.
who do I think I am?
Right, right,
Um,
right.
but in regards to you, I think something that's so current for you is applying to the Hoffman Institute, which was a huge deal.
It was.
It's not just going to ICF and getting a coaching certification. It's a
Right.
huge deal and it's a big undertaking. Um, and it's going to take some time for you to go through the process, but just to get accepted is a
I
big
know.
deal. So you've been accepted and you
And I'm
still
still
lean
like,
into, oh
yeah,
my God, I shouldn't be here. Why did they pick me? So I'll
yeah,
lead that into your segue of talking about
yeah.
imposter syndrome and your feelings and thoughts around it. And
Thanks. Yeah, so the Hoffman process is a psychoeducational week-long intensive in-person process. It's all over the world. It's based in California. And when you go through the process, my experience and many of my other fellow Hoffman graduates, there's 30 to 40 people in the big groups.
mhm,
We all left thinking Hoffman teachers are gods. Like, oh my God, and so that's been in the back of my mind. And when they sent out, we're hiring, I was like, oh, what? That really excites me. And I'm not like one of those people,
Right.
So I started off with imposter syndrome. I think it was Maya Angelou who once said that, she's published however many books, 16, 26 books. And she has imposter syndrome. She's like, one day they're going to figure me out and they're going to see that I'm not all these things people think I am. And I was like, oh, well, if she feels it, okay, I feel much better. So yeah, thank you. It's an enormous honor to even be chosen. And like I mentioned, it's a year-long training. And my number one feeling going into it is I can't believe they chose me. Two, really, I'm not like one of those teachers, that I experienced whatever a year ago. All these other people, there's a cohort of us who are
Hmm.
hired. Oh, I'm sure they have much more experience than I do, all of
Right.
those. And how I combat that is so they saw something in me that was what they wanted. And quite honestly, I feel like everything that I've done in my life, all those different things that I've been interested in, have led me to this point, have led me to this job. And it's not just a job. I mean, it's almost like a spiritual journey. And so I think about that. Like I kind of go through okay, I've done this, I've done that, I'm interested in that on this type of person. Like, yeah, okay, it fits. I'm still not 100% convinced that I belong there. And I'm sure we'll talk about this at our trainings, starting in a couple of days. But yeah, it's as I get older, I'm 53, I have less and less of the imposter syndrome, but it still sneaks in there. And um I think, like, when I talk with people about imposter syndrome, I really have them highlight, what are the things that undermine those feelings? What are all of the accomplishments, all the things you've done in your life that prove that imposter syndrome is not, it shouldn't be as powerful as it is,
Right.
right?
Like
It's a story.
how do
It's
you
not,
quiet that voice that's
yeah,
telling
yeah.
you
I
you're
mean,
not good enough? Yeah.
right, right. It's fear, right? And fear is not real. Fear is something we make up, and it's something that's attached to the past. And I feel the same thing about imposter syndrome. It's an attachment to something in the past. We're not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I'm not that.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Uh,
especially I think as women, because
mm,
from, you and I grew up in the same like generations where, girls were told, speak when you're spoken to, like,
yeah,
don't be loud,
yeah. Don't be
those
too
type.
Spirited.
Right. Yeah. So,
Definitely
or
not
you're
that.
talking too much. I got told I was talking too much all the time. And
Yep.
then lo and behold, I end up on social media talking to people. So I think it was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But you highlighted some of the things. One of the questions I was going to ask, and I like to know from the different coaches, is like, what are some of the tools you use either with yourself or your clients to get them to combat
Yeah.
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions I ask them is, who told you this? Where
Mm,
does this come from? Usually our imposter syndromes are attached to something that happened to, when we were kids. It
right,
doesn't even need to be that somebody said you're not smart enough.
right.
It could be that you had a sibling that was a high flyer in school and you weren't. And, you could sense that parents were really very proud of that one. Maybe they didn't express their pride in you, and you internalize these things.
Right,
Um, yeah, I think the big thing is, who do I think I am to be able to do this? Well, yeah,
right.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about who you are and why you deserve this,
Hmm.
and why this is. I think that imposter syndrome is something that tries to keep us safe, right? From taking
Absolutely.
chances, from doing something outside of the box. Like, oh, you couldn't do that. You're not this, or oh, I could never get that job, or whatever it is. It,
Hmm.
it keeps us stuck in our place. It keeps us small. It keeps us safe.
Yep.
So yeah, so that question of where did you learn this? Where did this first kind of arise in your life? A lot of time, people are really, really in their heads, and so a lot of times I will have my clients, if they feel safe doing it, close their eyes and sit with that feeling that of imposter syndrome, whether it is I'm not smart enough or whatever, and like, where in their body did they feel it? Where is it in their throat? Is it in their chest? Is it in their gut? Like where is it? And really kind of sit with that. And then I go through some other steps of things, but kind of getting us out of our brains is something that I like to do. You know, we can get in these thought loops that often don't take us anywhere.
Right.
Right. So if you can tap into other parts of ourselves, then that kind of helps. It starts to break the habit. And then one of the other things that I often do is when, oftentimes we don't even realize these things that we say about ourselves, like this chatter. There's this great book called Chatter that I recommend to people, and, like kind of the negative thought process. But I really help people recognize when they're going right to that, oh, I could never, who do I think I am, or whatever, and actually get up if they're sitting or they're doing something and do something physically different. And then that's a trigger for them to like stop what they're thinking and do something different, which creates new neural pathways in your brain. So there's a lot of things, where does it come from? Where is it in your body? Let's start catching it, catching it every time you do it. People are amazed actually when they start catching it, how many times a day they are saying negative things about themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, those are very good. I love those observations and those kind of, I don't like to say tips and tricks because they're tools, right? For people to, move on. But our time is limited today. We like to make these bite-sized so people watch till the end. But thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh.
If you want to find out more about Mary, you can go to FromWithin.com and go to our team. She's also under the coaching tab under the trauma section. And pretty soon we'll see Hoffman, what will we say? Hoffman certified? Is that what it will say?
Yes. Yeah. In a year.
Oh, in a year.
Yeah.
So we'll be excited to talk to you this year and follow your journey. So we're excited.
Thank you. And
congrats.
Thanks for having me. And I could talk to you all day.
I know, I could too. Well, we'll be doing more of these topics. So I'm looking forward to talking to you more, but have a great day and stay warm.
Thanks, Megan. You too.
Bye.
Bye.